by the prickling of my thumbs. Something wicked this way comes. It's Halloween in the old Pueblo. Time to get scary with El Presidio Project.
The urban legend. Every city and town in America has at least one. While the haunting story of La Llorona may be the most popular, it's definitely not the only tale Tucsonans are willing to share around a late-night campfire. The legend of Slaughterhouse has been around for decades, although it's unclear when it began to circulate. According to the story, one afternoon in 1964, 2 children went missing from the Farmer John meatpacking plant on Grant Road. The location, known for its wall mural depicting a desert setting with cattle and charging bull, opened for business in 1962. The plant was owned by a man named Warren James, a proud father of 2. Mr. James was pleasantly surprised when he spotted his kids that day, Sarah and Nelson, at his place of business. It's been said the children's nanny accompanied the 2 siblings during their visit. At one point, the kids were momentarily left alone in their father's office. When the nanny peeked in to check on them, they were gone. Believing Sarah and Nelson had simply wandered off, Mr. James and the nanny set out to look for them. Hours went by with no sign of the children, and eventually the police were called. The week-long search for the missing James siblings ended in a horrific discovery in the cutting and processing area. Human remains were found in one of the meat grinders. Someone had done the unthinkable. That someone turned out to be Sarah and Nelson's uncle. Allegedly, he lured the children away from their father's office and proceeded to commit one of the most gruesome crimes the Tucson police had ever seen. The legend goes on to say, Warren James was so grief-stricken by his children's murder that he walked into the plant's boiler room one night and took his own life. Other versions of the story say the uncle was never apprehended by the police and disappeared soon after the murder. He returned to Tucson for reasons unknown in 1984 and was found hanging by a noose in the boiler room with the words, "I killed them," carved into his chest. Although no evidence exists this terrible crime ever occurred, employees at the Farmer John meatpacking plant, which remained in operation until 2001, have reported ghostly sightings of children and have heard strange noises and disembodied voices coming from the boiler room. After its closing, the Farmer John building stood abandoned for nearly a decade. In 2009, it was taken over by the Tucson Screamers and converted into a haunted house attraction known as the Slaughterhouse.
Get ready for some scares. Tucson Screamers Slaughterhouse kicks off the Halloween season this weekend. This year they have 5 different haunted houses: the Voodoo Bayou, Cirque du Soleil, the Boiler Room, Apocalypse, and City Meets. In City Meets, the actors can actually grab you and chase you. Slaughterhouse opens tonight, 7 o'clock.
In this Halloween episode, I chat with a local actor who has volunteered at the Slaughterhouse for the past 7 years. We discuss the lore and hauntings of this Tucson attraction. Welcome to episode 11 of El Presidio Project.
Uncovering the creepy side of the old Pueblo. This is El Presidio Project. Strange Tales of Tucson.
It's that time of year again, everybody. I hope this October and Halloween season finds you well and all set for another episode of El Presidio Project. I'd like to thank my very special guest Vince for speaking with me and sharing his experiences, which I was somewhat surprised by. I've always heard stories about the Slaughterhouse, but I wasn't aware of how disturbing the environment was. And I'm not talking about the attractions created to give visitors a good scare. I'm talking about the paranormal aspect of it and the effect it's had on the actors. I even asked myself why anyone would return year after year to a location where things like this happen. When speaking with Vince, I came to understand the people of the Slaughterhouse love to entertain the Tucson public. They have a passion for what they do. It's a calling many of us would refuse to answer if the risk of being injured or haunted was a possibility. Once again, my thanks to my guest and to all those who give us something to look forward to every Halloween season. Here is episode 11, Slaughterhouse. Have you heard about the urban legend surrounding the Slaughterhouse?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so is that something that all of the employees are told from the get-go, or as you volunteer, you start learning about this legend?
So as you volunteer, you start learning more about the legend. Like, I learned this last year. So I was like, wow, I was amazed. I was like, well, that kind of makes sense in a way, because I would hear children laughing. You know, like I'll hear them giggle, and then I'll walk over there. I'm like, okay, so there's children going through the haunt, and I look up there and like, there's no kids, there's nobody there, no patrons. So I'm like, what am I hearing? And I walk in there, like nobody there. So I was just like, okay. So last year, they were talking about it, and I like kind of interrupted and kind of intervened. And I was telling them the story about the giggling of the children, and they're like, yeah, that happens all the time. Like, people, you're not the only one that has heard it. And their children had died there, and their spirits still linger through the haunts and everything at the Slaughterhouse.
If the legend of Slaughterhouse is just a story, could the power of suggestion be the cause of employees hearing the ghostly laughter of children, or is the location really haunted? In the fall of 2017, Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures conducted a paranormal investigation of the Slaughterhouse with special guest rapper Post Malone. The episode aired in January of 2018. According to the Haunted Attractions official website, filming took place over 3 days, and in those days, interviews with staff were conducted. These staff members shared their experiences, including being physically attacked on the premises by unseen forces, which in some cases caused visible injuries not acquired during their time spent as volunteer actors. Complaints of sudden back, stomach, and head pain, including dizziness, were also reported. Members of the Ghost Adventures crew documented similar experiences on film. Vince and his fellow volunteers believe spirit activity in the boiler room are to blame for these incidents.
We have one called Dougie. He hangs around the boiler room, and that's the most haunted part of the Slaughterhouse.
The boiler room, yes.
Boiler room. He's a trickster. He likes to trick people or like do things to mess with people. And I've had people come to me personally and say, I don't feel good. Like, I'll go down there to use the bathroom, and I have people outside the haunt, actors, we call them, with stomach aches, a cold chill to the touch, sweating, freaked out. Something touched my head, or something touched my shoulder, like a sharp pain was on my shoulder, or like my stomach hurts, like something was like grabbing my insides or something like that.
Right.
I've heard people tell me. And
This is in the boiler room.
this is the boiler room, and I've been there before, and I've had experiences there.
Did you experience like any of those symptoms, or?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So tell me about that. What happened?
So me and my friend Karaya and Alora, Alora was also investigated by the Ghost Adventures last year, and she wasn't able to explain to what had happened in the boiler room when all three of us were there. But I was pushing Karaya in a wheelchair, and we were picking up trash, so no one is allowed to go by themselves in the boiler room. It's a rule we have at Slaughterhouse. So all three of us traveled there. All the lights are off.
Okay.
So these are phones. And we're going through the little zigzag mazes and stuff like that, and we come to the point of the boiler room. we picked up trash, and me and Laura, we stopped, and we looked at each other in the eyes, and the color of our faces drained. And she told me, she's like, I don't feel so good. And something in here feels very airy and just very, like something's watching us.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I had a sharp pain in my shoulder. And like something was stabbing my shoulder, like. And then prior to that, I felt like something was digging its hands into my gut and twisting my insides. And then at that point, we both had the same feeling, and we booked it. We left. Garbage can and everything. We left.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go back there. Like, I don't want to go back there. Like,
I don't blame you. And I've heard that, a lot of the owner or whoever manages the Slaughterhouse, I don't know if he's the owner or manager, he has trouble getting actors to go into the boiler room because of these experiences.
Yes.
I've been investigating, doing like paranormal investigations. I'm very much still a rookie at it. I've never really felt anything physically, but I can understand when you say that it feels like somebody's watching you or looking at you. And I also am I'm very conscious of the fact when a room starts to feel heavy. Have you ever heard that when somebody says the room, it just feels heavy?
Yes.
And it's just it's almost like it feels, there's something about it that is just, and it's all surrounding. It's very, a distinct feeling, and that when you walk into a place and you feel that, that something's not right. A lot of times that feeling can cause pain, can cause nausea, and, cause you to feel like you're off center in a way. Aside from the mysterious incidents that occur near or inside the boiler room, other disturbances have been reported.
I've heard other things. I've heard a deep male voice, more like a growl more than anything. I've heard cows. I've seen apparitions. I've seen shadow people. I've smelt sulfur. I've smelt rotten flesh, meat. But I think that's debunked because down below us on the apocalypse, it said meat, and sometimes they have the fog machine. They have this special chemical in there that makes the whole haunt smell like meat. So I'm thinking that could have been it. I'm not entirely sure, but I haven't smelled it like this year. But last year I was smelling it a lot in especially this one area. It smelled like it was very strong, like overpowering. And I would look for any dead rats or lizards because of stray cats that go there that bring things. And I couldn't find the source. And then I went to go tell one of the employees there, and they're like, yeah, that happens. It could have been something that died up there, so we'll go check up there and see what happened.
Right.
But they never found anything.
So it's a common occurrence to smell,
yeah,
like something died in there.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any other experiences there that you want to talk about?
Well, I do see shadow people there, and apparently one has followed me from my house.
So you've had an entity
follow me, yeah,
follow you home.
Mm-hmm. I've had my friend's mom told me, she pulled me aside, and it was last year of Slaughter, and she pulls me over inside, and she's like, something's following you home. And I'm like, she's like, I sense it, I see it. It's a male in his 40s, and he's sitting there. And I was like, well, maybe you're just exaggerating, Mom. You're just pulling my leg here. And then I had other people tell me, sense it, that was a middle-aged man.
That was around you.
That was around me.
At home?
Not at home. It followed me from Slaughterhouse to my house.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
And it's been following me ever since. And sometimes in my bedroom, I would see him in the foot of my bed and just watch me as I sleep, but he doesn't do anything. And what I was told, it's not a bad entity, nor is it good. It's kind of neutral.
But it has an attachment to you.
It has an attachment to me, yes. And I don't know why. I don't know why it chose me as a person to attach himself to me. I have this thing where I sense the people, I sense energies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I pass by the boiler room, because there's a long hallway that leads to the bathroom for the actors. Every time I pass that, I feel something like wants to pull me in. That's calling to me, like just wants to pull me in. And I just ignore it. It takes a lot of energy to ignore it, but something in there wants me in there. And I dare not step foot in that place. Not for myself, no.
Right.
It has done some mental harm to me in a way, in a sense. It's made me very depressed. There are some days where I sense it, like I can feel it, like weighing on my shoulders, and it's there. And sometimes I have to look. Sometimes I see in my peripheral vision where this black mass, and it disappears. I've done rituals. I've done sage work. I've done crystal magic. I've done pretty much anything, like prayers, praying to ward off the entities. So I think that this year I haven't had any experiences yet, because I am wearing protection amulets and everything like that, protect myself, and I pray before I go in there. I not only pray for myself, but I pray for other people there too, because it's like not only me that's being attacked. You know, I've had people, like I said before, like I had people come to me before saying that my stomach hurts, or I feel really lightheaded or dizzy, or my shoulder hurts. You know, I feel like I'm gonna throw up or something like that. And last 2 weeks ago, we had one of the actors actually puke all over themselves. He said he was in city meets. He was by the boiler room, I believe, and
just something overcame him.
Something overcame him, and then he just wasn't. And people usually in the boiler room don't last within the 4 or 5 hours of the whole night. You know, you have people coming in and out, not feeling too good.
Right.
In Ghost Adventures, when they interviewed one of the actors, she said that she felt a rush of anger, and I felt that anger too. I think pretty much a lot of people can agree on that, like at Slaughterhouse.
There's like an aggression.
There's an aggression, yes. Very much so. They had photo evidence of, because you've seen it, like
I've seen the episode.
Dark mass. Sometimes they see that dark mass sometimes, but it doesn't reach out towards me. But I see it around other people. I would tell the employees there, I'd tell other people there, like, did you see this, did you see that? Like, no, but I felt it though. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one, I'm not crazy. Right. So and last year I found out that I'm not the only one, that I'm not the crazy one, you know, seeing things or hearing things or smelling things. But yeah, I have to watch out for my actors, because I've done it so long that I'm called a veteran of slaughter. And when I go there, I have newbies that show up, and I tell them, make sure I'm checking them, you know, making sure that I'm doing a mom check, like, are you okay? Do you need water? Are you feeling okay? Or, you know, are you sensing anything? And they're like, I'm fine. But when they're not themselves, not acting correctly or anything like that, I will approach them and ask them if they're okay. And they'll tell me, I'm not feeling too good, I have a headache, you know, I feel dizzy. And I'm like, I've gotten dizzy myself, like, the whole room would be shifting. And that happened last year. I got really dizzy to the point where I almost puked. And I had to sit down, and everything was shifting. That was after I was smelling the rotting flesh and everything, and hearing the children laugh.
Have people that have attended the Slaughterhouse, the attractions, have they ever, you know, have the public ever said something to you guys, the actors, and said, "This, I saw something," or "I feel something," or does that rarely happen?
It rarely happens, because people usually think, people usually assume that they haven't drinking enough water, or they haven't eaten or anything. Usually when we tell stories or tell the new people that this place is actually really haunted, and that there is entities in here, people usually don't want to believe that, because they're afraid. They don't really want to know. Right, exactly. Usually when we do tell them, they get really psyched, and they psych themselves into thinking that something's happening. And sometimes that happens, but we believe it because it hasn't happened to one person, it's happened to multiple people. But to the public, to the patrons that come through, I don't think it really affects them, because they're not there long enough.
Right, they're just kind of coming and going.
Coming and going. But we have this one lady in there. She's been we call her Mama Slaughter. she's been in that slaughterhouse since it was first built. And she would tell us stories about ghost cows or pigs, like, cats. And
she would see them or hear them?
She would see them and hear them. She would tell us stories, and she was the one that I'm the one that told her about the kids. And she's like, yeah, it's normal. Like, there's children here. And they like to play hide and go seek. They like to play around. And I'm like, oh boy. Yeah. Why are they coming to me? Like, tell them to go somewhere else.
Right.
It's every year I go, I just hope that I'm not bringing home something that isn't good. I also hope that whatever lies in Slaughterhouse finds peace one day.
Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's important to remember the building's past. Not so much the legend, but as a place where thousands of animals lost their lives. And a place where hundreds of workers, some of who are probably deceased by now, came in and out on a daily basis, carrying emotions with them, both good and bad. When the meatpacking plant closed, the building stood abandoned for years. It was vandalized and even set on fire once. Rumors of people conducting satanic rituals on the premises is also a part of its lore. I believe all this energy remains there in one form or another. Best of luck to Vince and all the staff of the Slaughterhouse. Coming up next, my brief review of Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House.
The good, the bad, and everything in between. It's the Weekend Creep Show Report.
I guess this should have been changed to the midweek Creep Show Report, but that's okay. The Haunting of Hill House is a 10-episode series that debuted on Netflix this October. Loosely based on the novel by Shirley Jackson, this version of Hill House stars a slew of great actors, including Timothy Hutton, Carla Gugino, and Henry Thomas. The plot description on Wikipedia reads, in the summer of 1992, Hugh and Olivia Crane, along with their children Stephen, Shirley, Theodora, Luke, and Eleanor, temporarily move into Hill House, where they renovate the mansion. However, unexpected repairs necessitate the lengthening of their stay. At the same time, they begin to experience increasing paranormal phenomena that results in a tragic loss, and the family fleeing from the house. 26 years later, the Crane siblings and their estranged father reunite after tragedy strikes again, and they are all forced to confront how their time in Hill House had affected each of them. So I started seeing posts about it on my Facebook feed, and I decided to watch the first episode, which I was planning on doing anyway, because, scary stuff and Netflix is kind of what I do. But honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be so dramatic. And at first, I was like, this is kind of sad. I'm not sure I want to keep watching this because I'm a big crybaby. But I'm so glad I did because it's amazing. The Haunting of Hill House is so much more than just ghosts and jump scares. It's a very well put together supernatural drama where the monster or the villain or whatever you want to call it is really the trauma of their childhood. And it's heartbreaking, especially the episodes featuring the youngest of the siblings, twins Luke and Eleanor. Now, before you say, well, forget all that, I want to be scared, not depressed, let me just say this. In episode 4, there's a flashback scene where Luke, as a child, hears a noise coming from the hallway outside of his bedroom. Little guy gets up from his bed, cautiously walks to the door, and looks out into the hallway. I'm not going to spoil it for you and describe it, but what he saw scared the hell out of me. And I've seen a lot of scary things in my 30-plus years as a horror fan, but that scene was terrifying, and it felt like it lasted forever. I didn't even want to leave my own bedroom after I saw that. It not only scared me, but it reminded me of my own experiences in the home I grew up in, which I spoke about in the first episode of this podcast. I remember that feeling as a kid, being afraid of your own house, and I have no doubt that's why that scene affected me the way it did. But anyway, there are plenty of scares in this show. They're incredibly well done. But at its core, it's about family, trauma, and loss, and it's presented beautifully. Don't let the emotional aspect of it turn you off of this series. definitely check out The Haunting of Hill House. Well, that about wraps it up, everybody. My thanks to all of you for your continued support. Wishing you all a very happy Halloween. Be safe out there. Until next time, bye-bye.